All right, we are on example number 10 from 1.2. It says, write down the value of r and find the indicated term. So we have our first three terms of our sequence and our basic u sub 12. So we are going to go ahead and find the common ratio first. Very important that you remember that a common ratio is never a dividing term. It's always going to be a multiplying term. So it's important to know here that when you're going along, obviously this is going to be a pretty simple one, that you don't say, okay, 40 divided by 20 is 2, so I know my common ratio is 2. Whenever your number is bigger than 1, your sequence is getting bigger because you're basically saying you're multiplying by 2. So when it's getting smaller, we know that it's a fraction. So always think of the common ratio as a multiplying term. It's either going to be a number bigger than 1 or it's going to be a fraction. So obviously to get from 40 to 20, you're dividing by 2, which is what we don't want to write. We want to write multiplying by a half from term to term. Okay, so I know that the common ratio is 1/2. Okay, if it's something that's a little bit harder to figure out, let's say it's a weird fraction or a decimal, not as easy to see, a good trick to do is to take one term and divide it by the one right before it. So 20 divided by 40, or you can even do the third and the second, so 10 divided by 20, which will all give you the same common ratio. So if it's a little bit harder to find, you can always plug it into your calculator and see what it is that way too, which is obviously the 1/2 in this case. So r is 1/2. And we are going to go ahead and find the 12th term. So u sub 12 equals, first term is 40, and I'm just using my formula up here. Okay, r is 1/2, and then 12 minus 1 in the exponent. Now, if you're somebody that's going to plug this into the calculator, which I recommend, do not plug in 12 minus 1 into the exponent. There's so many problems with calculator errors, especially with this formula. Plug it in as 11. It's just going to save you some headache of making that calculator mistake. So we have 40, 1/2 to the 11th power. Okay, if you plug it in, I'm cheating a little bit and I'm already looking at the answer. It should be 5/256. Okay, and there we go.